We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
The 1-2 pitch, ball lined to out, it's short, he throws, it's over! The Brewers have won the American League pennant! Milwaukee, you have a World Series!
Hit in the air, Yount makes a great catch, and Rodney Amos has thrown the first no-hitter in Milwaukee Brewer history!
Swings, and there it is! A base hit in the right center! He's done it! 3,000 for Robin.
And there's a drive in the left field. This is hit well. And it's gone! Ryan Braun! A two-run home run! The Brewers take the lead!
Morgan, a smash up the middle. Base hit to center. Here comes Gomez. Around third. A throw and the Brewers win. The Brewers are moving on a base hit by Nigel Morgan. Here it is. Yelich sends one to right center and deep. Get up. Get up. Get out of here and gone for Yelich.
You're cruising for a bruising with me, Andrew Snyder.
And me, Adam McGee.
As we talk all things Milwaukee Brewers for the Eurostep Podcast Network and Blue Wire Podcasts. Rain, go away. But you know what? It's all sunshine here on the Cruising for a Bruising podcast because the Milwaukee Brewers have won another series, taking 2 of 3 from the Cincinnati Reds. Game 4 washed out to be made up as part of a doubleheader on August 30th, I believe, was the date that I saw there. We're going to talk about the series that was, the good, the bad, the ugly, but before we do that, hey, Adam, how are you? Happy Masters Week to all who celebrate.
Hello, Andrew. I'm doing well. Excited for Masters weekend. And, yeah, I like watching these Brewers just continue to kick ass, win baseball games. And you know what? Even when it goes poorly and they don't win a baseball game, they make it entertaining and they're with a chance. It's been a very, very fun start to the season.
Yes, it has. Very fun start to the season. I think maybe surprising some folks. Obviously, not us. This is kind of what we expected from this team. Maybe we didn't expect them to start out of the gates just quite as hot as they did. Brewers and Pirates, the 2 teams that have started the best in the NL Central. Everybody except, I guess, the Cardinals being pretty competent thus far, although the Cardinals aren't too far off of 500, but the Phillies did come in and I think win a series against them. The offense has up-leveled to a degree. I don't have the stats in front of me right now that were going around the other day, but offense performing and, 3 games at Great American Small Park will definitely help boost those numbers a bit. But then, except for game 1 of this series that we're going to talk about in a bit, pitching and defense. The defense came to play in the second and third game of this series, and guys like Joey Ortiz, Bryce Terang flashing some glove, Jake Bauers making some great plays at first base. I mean, new names, faces, a lot of guys. This is the first opening day roster that they'd made in their big league careers, and thus far, guys are stepping up and performing, and that's not without a little bit of adversity added to the mix, obviously. Wade Miley started the season on the IL. He got his first start in this series and looked pretty good in a short stint, keeping him on a pitch count. I thought he could have gave one more, but good to be cautious with Wade, as we talked about last week. Wade needs to be a factor into this rotation at least a significant amount of the season in various pockets, because you do have to budget in some IL time. But so far, so good for a lot of Milwaukee Brewers, and something we'll talk about when we get into this series. Christian Yelich looking like the Christian Yelich of old. I guess I'll turn it over to you while I pull up some news and notes.
Well, yeah, I was thinking it's actually maybe a slightly pleasant change. You don't have as much or too much news and notes. Because I don't think we've had Brewers getting injured. Brewers may be closer to returns from injury, but not getting injured in the last few days. Yeah, I think to everything you're saying, the offense is functioning really, really well. We're seeing them hit home runs at a rate that ranks up there towards the highest marks in all baseball. But it's not just that. They're just hitting generally. We're seeing a much improved offense just when it comes down to foundational elements. I think there's better plate discipline. There's a nicer mix of hitting across the roster, and it's really delivering so far. I would have some questions over sustainability when it comes to a couple of players. Is Christian Yelich going to do this all season? If Christian Yelich is going to do this all season, well, then he's going to possibly win another MVP, and the Brewers might go on, I don't know, contend for a World Series. Is Bryce Terang fixed offensively where this is going to keep up? Outside of that, though, in a real sense, obviously there's some things that are going to kind of flatten as we build up a meaningful sample. I'm not seeing a ton from guys where I'm like, yeah, that's completely fluke. That's really unrealistic. And that's very exciting. I even on like if one of the potentially unsustainable things is Christian Yelich may not keep this up, he is also a guy who has done this in the past. So maybe he will. It's not like a complete shot in the dark. It's not like, is he taking a leap that no one could ever see coming? It's like, well, he's done it before. The way this season started, certainly raising some eyebrows, certainly got all Brewers fans' attention. But I think overall, I really like the shape of things. I like a lot of what Murph is doing with lineups. I know there's been plenty of conversation about his use of kind of the leadoff spot and some of the decisions he's made around that. I don't see too much that's really, to me, like offensive and glaring. He also really seems to value, 9 in a way that I quite like, in that he's ensuring, okay, you've got speed there. You're treating kind of the turning over of your lineup in a way that is going to maximize your opportunity in that spot as well, which is part of why we've seen Jackson Churio. Then there are times he's not being lead off. We've seen Sal Frelick there. We've seen Bryce Terang there. And I think a lot of that is kind of a very smart way to build your lineup with the kind of profile you've got, because you've got kind of a speedy contact guy to work at leadoff, and then some real thump behind that at the moment, in particular with the way Yeli is, and obviously Contreras. And then just having the ability, if it's a Bryce Terang or a Sal Frelick, whoever is down the lineup, if they get on and you're turning over, you've got real opportunity kind of in multiple spots. I really liked, honestly, pretty much everything about what the Brewers have done. As close to that as you can get. I think the pitching is turning out kind of as we expected, and this is a particularly challenging stretch in terms of schedule and in terms of some of the injuries and guys working back through it and whatever. But I mean, it's hanging together well enough, and if you're going to win games with your offense, you give it an even greater chance to work out. So it's just hard not to feel very, very good and pretty excited about what lies ahead this season at the moment.
Yeah. Talking about the offense, I finally found something to kind of bring up. But Numac, I want you to close your ears for this one if you're listening. But the Brewers
No,
have
I want to listen. I want to listen. I think it's important he listens.
7 hitters with a WRC plus over 100 to start the season. Now, part of that is Blake Perkins and his 17 plate appearances. Blake Perkins with probably his best series as a Brewer against the Reds, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. And then you've got Sal Frelick, Oliver Dunn at 99, and Willie Adames at 98. So just a whole lot of competence and performance thus far from the offense. And then that was, we have to question, like, is some of this regression with hitting and runners and scoring position going to come? Perhaps. But also, I think I saw Steven and Logan having a conversation about this in the Discord, gspn.info. Will their sequencing luck improve, which was something that was plaguing them earlier in the season, the first two series. So yeah, a lot to like right now with the offense and Murph's decision making. I think even like a small old school thing, which is something that I didn't see confirmed, but was my assumption. Oliver Dunn, who's had a great start to the season, his first big league season, obviously, after a tough path to the big leagues, faced his first little bit of adversity in the first two games in this Red series, and Murph gives him the day off, inserts Joey Ortiz into the lineup, and just from the outside view and some of those last few at bats in game two, I think it was, some of the pitches he was swinging through, he seemed a little bit frustrated. Obviously, a guy who's performed well, you want to keep performing well. And if Murph's able to recognize that and use that as an opportunity to give a guy a mental day, so to speak, and come back, next series ready to go, I think that's kind of a human touch to baseball that, I'm reading into that day off situation more than anything. But it's Murph realizing he's got a lot of guys at his disposal that he can plug and play, and using them when they're needed, and like giving guys days off, so guys that can play multiple positions can get into the lineup like a Joey Ortiz, and guys don't get burned out, I think is going to be a key to managing this season. And thus far, I've been really impressed with that way he's kind of fit the puzzle pieces.
I mean, he's kind of involving everyone meaningfully, except maybe Gary Sanchez. I think that's
And
probably
Andre Monasterio, I guess, would be
Monasterio
another.
as well. Actually, we've seen very little of, and I think we would see more of Sanchez if he was just to start to show a little bit more in his opportunity. But he is kind of a guy who that may not happen all season if he's not getting a chance to play with any kind of consistency. That's kind of just going to be something interesting to track as it went on, because that would have been apparent from when they signed him. This was like a real quality offensive backup catcher, but to get that, you might have to play him, and Contreras is going to keep doing Contreras things. Look, we'll see. I think I really, really like how things are being handled. Um, Even just he is very reactive. I would say rather than reactionary. Like I don't feel like it's kind of an overreaction at any point, but something as simple as you look at game one in this series, which we'll talk about momentarily, and the kind of game Hoskins has, it makes sense to be like, okay, well, let's take that glove out of your hand for a couple of days. Let's reset, and we can go again from there. And there's an element of that. I think he's treating the young guys not like they're young guys because he's got so many of them. He doesn't have that opportunity, so they're being played. It's not like he can just be like favoring veterans over youth at most of these spots. But in that same way, yeah, when there's maybe some sense of a reality check or a crash down to earth, he's gonna pick up on that and he's gonna say, "Okay, you've got a day off, and let's reset and let's come back at it." And look, so far it's working. It's working very nicely. We've a long way to go. This is all very new for a lot of these guys, and how they'll hold up over the long, long grind of an MLB season is very much something that remains to be seen. But hey, you can't go and I don't know, what have we lost? Three now? You can't win 159, Andrew, if you don't start well. And Brewers have started well. Like you gotta I know so much is talked up about this, and I will openly admit if this was a 3-8 start, because some of the young guys were kind of scuffling a little bit, we'd probably be like, look, it's a long season. You can get hot whenever. That is true on both sides of the equation, but the wins count the same. And if they're going to bank wins early, we are not going to be opposed to that, because there is a chance that this team will find it more challenging as they get into the season. Maybe as some guys hit a rookie wall of sorts. We'll see how that kind of thing plays out. You can't go wrong with 8-3 though. And right now, there's no real reason to believe that that's going to slow down in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about meeting the season where it meets you, right, Adam? Like
Sure.
we do this twice a week, so when it's good, we'll be happy. When it's bad, we'll talk about the bad. And you talked about the backup catcher position, Adam, so that does give me the opportunity to talk about something bad, unfortunately. Matt Arnold announced this week that Jefferson Caro is going to undergo surgery for a torn labrum on his right throwing shoulder, which will end his season. Recovery timeline looking like 9 months, and he should be ready for next spring training. Obviously, a really tough blow to the Brewers farm system and his development, losing a season of development both behind the plate catching and probably more importantly at the plate hitting, because he was probably about a finished product as a catcher defensively. It just looks great every time we saw any kind of flashes of his brilliance throwing runners out or whatever it may be. Yeah. So Eric Haas and Francisco Mejia obviously are the catching tandem in Nashville, and catching depth for this big league team in case they need him. Going into last offseason, we would have thought we would have seen Caro's major league debut in 2024. That is not to be. And just a tough break for the kid.
Yeah, it's pretty rough one. A rough one for the Brewers as well in terms of what we're hoping to see down the pipeline. I don't know. I'm still in the grand scheme of pretty new things. Wouldn't have thought shoulder injuries are ideal for a young catcher like that, particularly someone who specializes in just absolutely gunning runners out. So I just hope full recovery is made and it doesn't take away from the version of Jefferson Caro we've been so excited to see make his way to the big leagues.
Matt Arnold also provided other timelines on injured players to the media. Garrett Mitchell with that finger injury, slated for a return around June 1st. Robert Gasser, who had the bone spurs in his elbow, is throwing 2 innings in extended spring training in Arizona on Saturday. Devin Williams, obviously the back issue that flared up in spring training, looking like all-star break, is what Matt Arnold said. And then Taylor Clark, who had knee surgery late May. The Williams timeline kind of surprised me because when we first heard about it, it was 6 weeks shut down, 6 weeks of, I guess, rehab ramp up. And seems like maybe that timeline's pushed down a little bit further. Don't know if that was always the plan and the 12-week timeline was more about recovery rather than getting back into game shape. Who knows what it could have been, because there was nothing more elaborated there. But yeah, Devin out into the All-Star break, so the mix and match bullpen and the Cowboy in the 9th inning will be what we seem to ride with going forward.
Maybe there's just some expectation management there too, and some
Yeah.
trying to downplay that. And I don't think it is something that they need to feel the most urgency with right now. Of course, we want to see Devin Williams back as soon as he's fully healthy and back. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's back sooner than that. Maybe we don't get that hyped up the whole way along. It's something that maybe we get to early June, mid-June, and it is closer to what we were kind of treating as the original timeline. But I don't really see any issue. I don't think it does any harm in any way for Matt Arnold to kind of push that one out just a little bit further. I think he's probably talking in very tentative terms on all of that, particularly with Devin being one of the more longer-term injuries.
Greg is usually a fan of water cooler talk, but it's draft season, and that's all anyone wants to talk about. The Athletic has loads of articles about this year's draft, but Greg doesn't have The Athletic, so now he's filling up his water bottle in the bathroom sink, which, to remind you, is the sink people use after they use the bathroom. Get The Athletic and get the info you need to speak draft fluently.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Trevor McGill, probably. I thought I saw a report on this, but I don't have it in front of me. Probably getting closer to knowing whether or not he'll return, and that's something that obviously having him back in the fold is something that lessens the blow of not having Devin Williams, because we know how good McGill can be at his best. That should, I think, move us into Monday's game. Reds and Brewers. Should we get into it, Adam?
Let's do it.
This game was kind of a game earmarked by uncharacteristically sloppy defense from the Milwaukee Brewers. Graham Ashcraft on the mound against Aaron Ashby. So Ashby making his return from that shoulder injury that really put a significant dent in his career trajectory and timeline. And now he's back in the bigs and seeing if he can be a starter. In the second inning, an Espinal ground out to short scored Yeli De La Cruz. Why was Yeli De La Cruz on base, Adam? Yeli De La Cruz was on base because of what was deemed a throwing error by Joey Ortiz, a ball that you would hope your first baseman would be able to scoop. Rhys Hoskins over at first base. We know his reputation is one of being a poor defender, but this was a real anything that can go wrong will go wrong game for Rhys at first base. So deemed a throwing error on Ortiz there, but a ball you'd like your first baseman to get. That was after a error by Hoskins in the first inning had allowed Spencer Steer to reach and get to second base. That was on a ground ball to Willie Adames, and a ball that wasn't even in the dirt, just was kind of a high throw by Adames that Hoskins just did not snare. Hoskins would have another play later in the game where a throw, I think again by Ortiz, would get away from him, and then a ball hit right at him that would take a nasty hop, kind of ate him up, and so a tough day for Hoskins at first base.
It didn't take a nasty hop. He wasn't behind it at all, and his glove was in a terrible position.
The line drive?
Yeah. You're talking where you drop to one knee and it just kind of goes like left him, and his glove is low. Like he just, I think.
Yeah, that one kind of just hopped up on him. I feel like that's what Vinny Rotino told me.
Maybe I'm just giving him no credit at all because this was really bad.
I was for some reason I'm less concerned by that ball smoked right at him than the scoops. Like I just gotta have that for my first baseman.
I just think a bit more of him should be behind that. I mean, because he had the chance to read it and drop in position, and then to be that kind of far off was concerning. But that's definitely a cumulative thing after the others. I mean, we were so used to Rowdy Tellez and his height, just like plucking high throws out of the air. Like that one that went over Hoskins' head was not that high at all. And I think it certainly taught us something, that he doesn't have the greatest of extension. I don't know what Rhys Hoskins' wingspan is, Andrew, but he's not quite getting up there like we may have been used to seeing in the last couple of years when Rowdy was playing first. Yeah, there's some really simple stuff that just was bad, and I mean, even some.
Wait, did they not call the line or the kind of one hop line drive an error?
No.
Wow. Okay. So
he only technically got called for one error in the game because the other went to Ortiz, which is nonsense.
Like I said, yeah, I don't like it.
In a non-baseball usage of the term error, I understand these would not be charged as errors in that sense. But Rhys Hoskins made 4. Just the word by the definition of what it means. Made 4 errors, 4 mistakes in this game. That really dug the Brewers into the hole.
this is I told you this offline, and this might be a dumb take from me, but what I want most out of my Brewers first baseman defensively is being able to field a wide range of throws from the athletic infielders that they have that can get to balls that lesser infielders can't, have throwing arms where they're able to attempt to make plays on guys running that are quicker than others would be able to do. Like Ellie De La Cruz was involved
Mm.
in one of these instances, and why did a throw potentially get rushed? Because he's really fast, and you need the infielder to be able to get the ball quickly and huck it to first base. And you just want your first baseman to be able to make those plays. Jake Bauer stepped in the next 2 days, and after one whiff on a bounce throw from Adames was excellent the rest of the series. So it's like that's kind of what I want from a Brewers first baseman, given this infield alignment. Maybe I was being too harsh on Rhys Hoskins in your DMs.
No, it
In the
wasn't
game.
just you. I saw on the Discord too because I was late to catching up, and I was like, everyone's like, God, this guy can't play first at all. I was like, this seems excessive. And then I saw it and I was like, I get it. Now, I said it to you before we start recording. I'll say it again. I do think this is as bad as it gets. This is
Yeah.
objectively really bad. I don't think this is representative of what Hoskins will look like at first all season, but it's also not nothing. It is certainly representative of the limitations he has with his glove. I think in a game like that, and it's interesting, with someone like Ellie De La Cruz, what I would ask him to be is like just even be more of a catcher, right? Just keep that ball in front of you, just knock it down. If you're not getting them all clean for, the out, just make sure you're not letting them get multiple bases on you because the ball is getting away from you. And that was kind of my thing with the line drive too. It's at that point it's just make sure glove position, body position, you are not letting this ball get past you. And whether that was kind of balls getting out the side of him on first base or whether it was on something like that line drive. If you let it get away from you, particularly there may be no team worse to do that in all of baseball than the Reds. It's like it will cost you. And the Brewers honestly played pretty well otherwise and had a good offensive outing of their own. But guess what? It costs you. You can't spot a team like the Reds those kind of opportunities because they translate to runs. And tough all around. Like Aaron Ashby's return, quite a bit of good stuff in there. I think just solid, like nothing spectacular, but we would have been quite happy with it if Hoskins had not made the mistakes he did, to really just like open the floodgates on in that fourth inning. So, really, just really tough. I
Yeah. I only ask if I'm being too harsh because I'm not considering giving him the benefit of the doubt as a human being, knowing that he probably isn't a first baseman anymore. He's a DH. And also, the last time he played first base, he tore up his knee in spring training and missed the whole season. So it's like,
I got bad news from him though. He's a first base in this roster. Like he's a first baseman. Unless Reese Hoskins is going to learn how to hit, the Brewers are
Jake
either,
Bowers.
or sorry, well, Reese Hoskins, we need him to hit really well. Unless Jake Bowers is going to learn how to hit like consistently, we're either going to be in a spot where we need Reese Hoskins to be better, or the Brewers are going to have to go looking for a new starting first baseman or a strong option that they can mix and match at first base, whether that's via the trade market or whether that is internally, someone like Tyler Black. That's just the reality of it. Like he was signed to be a first baseman on this team. If it proves he can't do that, that's going to be tough. He's going to have to hit really, really well. He's going to DH a lot more, but that does factor into what I was talking about earlier. It's not seeing Sanchez a lot. It's like, yeah, if you're going to have consecutive games where Bowers is starting at first base, that's taking away opportunity from someone like Sanchez. And also, look at the version of Christian Yelich you've got now. We know there's going to be times where it's just necessary for him to DH. So the plan certainly was not for him to just be a DH. And I don't think it should be there yet. Like let's get him back out of first and let's see. I think that is the worst of the worst. If that happens even once more again this season to that extent, I'd be surprised. He's gonna have them in him, but if he hits well enough, all will be well. And there is an element to me where I'm just reprogramming how I watch Brewers baseball. It's like if the offense is scoring enough, you can take some of these things in your stride. We have been used to, even though reputationally it hasn't always been the case, we have talked. Rowdy is a good example, like not someone who was known as a good defender, and from time to time, like people get on his case. he did the very kind of just basic fundamental things pretty well. He wasn't flashy, but most of the time he was taking care of the balls you want him to. I think that's kind of been a Brewers first base thing for a little while. Maybe that's different, but
Yeah,
the whole outlook of this team is different, and we're gonna have to adjust to that. It'd be better if we don't. Like, if Hoskins could just play better defensively, or Barris could play better offensively, it would certainly solve a lot. We may be in a situation though where we've got that kind of offense defensive split for a lot of the year.
yeah. I just wanted to have the larger discussion about it because I think in the offseason, or when he was signed, I in particular probably just didn't have a wider discussion about what he is defensively, um, because we were excited about the power and the patience and adding something to the lineup that was sorely missing. That, this is something that could pop up and be an issue from time to time. And because they've had a lot of right-handed starting pitchers to face, being able to plug Bowers into that first base slot and give him a chance is something that they can do. Obviously, when they start to face more left-handers, I think Murph's gonna want to see if Gary Sanchez can DH and hit his way out of some of the trouble that he's had. I assume if we would have gotten that day game today, that Gary Sanchez would have been behind the plate to give Bill a day off. And if that means Bill's off, then he's off, and you can do whatever you want with that first base DH tandem. But what if that means Bill's DHing? So
You don't
that's
want to
that's
give
where the
Bill too many days off,
no.
and they
I
won't.
think I think today would have been a wacky lineup though. I really wonder what we could have gotten into with Murphy using this as a day to get some guys days off. Back to the recap. After we had a wider discussion about first base defense, brought to you by no sponsor on this segment. Uh, so
Contact Ty
that error,
Windish if you're interested.
yeah. If Ty would like to sell me, he can do that to advertisers. Like we said, after the De La Cruz gets on base via the air in the second, Espinal's ground out scores him. Will Benson then hits a homer to right field to make it 2-0. The Reds would then get a couple more in the fourth on an Espinal sacrifice. Stevenson and De La Cruz score on the throwing error, quote unquote, by Joey Ortiz. Espinal would wind up on third. That makes it 4-0 in the fourth. Aaron Ashby for his day, 3 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 8 runs, only 4 were earned because of the errors, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and the homer allowed to Benson. Ashby, I think his sinker was sitting around like 93, 94. I think was where that was coming in. Average velocity there, 93.6. Threw 37 changeups. I think his 2 strikeouts came on changeups, if I remember that correctly. 4 curveballs and only 2 sliders. So a 4 pitch mix guy coming in, going really heavy sinker changeup in this outing. And I wonder if that was just to kind of simplify things and like keep it simple for that first outing, or maybe that was a scouting report thing based on what he picked up about the Reds hitters. Like we said, not the best outing for Ashby, but there's some good stuff in there. Still missing on non-competitive pitches out of the zone, still missing in the heart of the zone from time to time. The command was not as sharpest. But all that being said, I think you and I still think he's a reliever, and that's going to be his best role as a big leaguer. But this is not the game I'm going to use to write him off because the Brewers needed him to make this start. He did, and it was an everything can go wrong, will go wrong situation for the defense behind him. So I'm not going to completely penalize him for this outing.
He's in NBA parlance, he's a tweener, right? I think he is, he's not big enough to play center, too big to play the 4. He doesn't, maybe his jumper isn't there to be a stretch 4. Like that's I don't know if he is like it's up to any team and their usage, and I guess how his stuff really plays out and what kind of velocity he wants to sit at and what that gets the best out of him, just how those plans come together. Like he's a guy who I think could certainly give you 2 or 3 dynamite innings in relief. I think could be really exceptional as a single inning guy if it was ever go that way. I do think he could reliably be in that 4 or 5 inning range, though, and be someone who gives you good innings at that time, and you just know, okay, we're gonna want him out at that point. And part of that for the Brewers, even because they've got multiple guys who are kind of in that profile. as the season goes on, is going to be working out. All right, well, where do we want him? How does that work? I do think he is someone that will be good for 4 really good innings consistently. It's just like, well, how would you want to go about that, or where would you want to slot him in to do that? Um, I don't think he has like ace potential, which I do think obviously the Brewers were once very hopeful of. That's what they were hoping for. And I think if no injuries had been encountered and if everything had gone exactly to plan, like he'd be behind Freddie. He'd be the number 2 guy in this rotation at this point. And that's not something that looks very likely to materialize soon. But look, we could be wrong if some stuff kind of works itself out. Like he's got the stuff. His slider is really nasty. The velocity, like it's not bad for seeing him back up here. Like it's not a major drop off from who he was. There's nothing where I'm like, okay, this is catastrophic. But we'll see in the longer term. It's going to be an ongoing thing of what's his best role, where does he fit in. I do think right now though, like I think this is pretty close. Like where you're essentially getting 4 innings out of him. And again, if the wheels didn't come off with Hoskins there, like we would come out of this, wouldn't be like, oh, it was great, but we'd be like, yeah, it was okay, he's back, that was solid, and we go from there. I do hope he gets another start because I think it will be useful for us to see and useful for the Brewers. And if it's good, well, he'll continue to factor in one way or another.
Yep. I will be interested to see if he goes back to that slider more in future starts, because if we would have said that's his best pitch
100%.
going into the start, and to not see him throw it very much, interesting to say the least. Ashby down 4-0, still pitching in the fourth. Will Benson double makes it 5-0. Spencer Steer double scores Benson and Stuart Fairchild, who would walk, to make it 7-0. And then Jamer Candelario chases Ashby from the game to make it 8-0 with a single to right. JB Bukowskis comes on to get out of the inning with the Brewers down 8-0 going into the top of the fifth. But the Brewers would fight back in this game, Adam. Graham Ashcraft, who looked excellent through the first 4 innings. I made a joke asking about his whereabouts on a certain day, and I think I figured out where he was. He was at Driveline Baseball, just really honing his stuff.
Have you got jokes like that cooked up for the next series?
Oh God, yeah, I could. Sal Frelick started the fifth with a walk after a Rhys Hoskins ground out and a Jackson Chorio ground out. Bryce Terang slams his first homer of the season to right center field, makes it 8-2. The spring of Bryce continues. Another solid series for him. Love to see it. William Contreras, after a Joey Ortiz single, would single through the right side to score Ortiz. Made it 8-3. Christian Yelich lines out to end the inning. In the fifth inning, the Reds would add to the scoring. Ellie De La Cruz off of JB Bukowskis homers to center field to make it 9-3, so they get one back there. But the Brewers are not done. Ashcraft's still on the mound for the Reds with a 9-3 lead after a Sal Frelick single puts a runner on. Rhys Hoskins strikes out to put 2 outs in the inning. Jackson Chorio singles, and then Bryce Terang double to left makes it 9-5. Joey Ortiz reaches on an infield single where the pitcher threw the ball away. Thought it probably should have been an error in general, but I don't know. Ortiz is quick. Terang scores on the error by Ashcraft. Ortiz reaches second there. It's 9-6. Old friend Justin Wilson comes on to get Oliver Dunn to fly out. It's 9-6 Reds going into the bottom of the sixth. Just an absolutely chaotic game. And I know, Adam, I think you wanted to talk about Bryce Terang, so I'll turn it over to you.
I just I don't really. I don't have more to add than I have on the last few pods. No, he's playing really well, and he is showing, real consistency with his offense, which is very, very surprising. Andrew is holding up his Terang, Agent Zero Terang jersey. It's one of the more exciting things about this team to me right now. I think he can be so insanely good if he is just like this level of hitter, and he's so good once he gets on base. His defense is phenomenal. Like, I think this is really, really exciting, and he's a guy who, look, he might just fly under the radar, even if he was this guy consistently for a long period of time, because there won't be a ton of flash to his offense. It is fitting that this was the ballpark he got his homer in. But hey, we'll take it. We'll take any homer he gets. We'll take all the hits he's getting. I just think his approach generally, his plate discipline, all of this, it's just so much better. So, like, it was a major source of concern for us. And I know we did talk a lot in the offseason, and maybe this is a factor in it too. He was really much like Weimer was too. Those guys were thrown in at the deep end last year. It was just the need was there. The Brewers didn't have the guys to really spell them too much and give them a chance in the way that we're just talking about. Oh yeah, credit to Murph being like, Ollie Dunn, you need a day off. That is not the reality that Bryce Terang had for himself a lot of last year. It was like, buddy, you're playing every day because the options outside of this are pretty tough for us. That's not the situation this year. I think that could ultimately benefit Terang as well when he needs a break. But right now, he's just killing it. And maybe in the long term, a season where he certainly had his fair share of struggles, but he got to learn quickly, like to be a pro. I thought it was even. I'm asking, did you see this? I'm sure you did because I know you care deeply about it. The um the video the Brewers put out on social of Hobie, Yeli, Hoskins, and Terang on the subway for that
Yeah,
Mets
yeah, yeah,
game.
yeah.
It's just like Terang. I was like, Terang is an old head here already. Like, look at him just hanging with the vets. And it's like, yeah, because he had to really do a season. He's maybe a little bit more experienced than some of these other guys. Maybe it's paying off, but I just think it may not be sustainable. Look, there's plenty of reason to think that'll be the case, but we should celebrate it while it's happening. And even if it proves not to be sustainable, if he's a guy who will have hot streaks like this more often, where you're like, okay, the offense is there, that will all average out to a pretty nice place overall over the course of a season, which, when combined with his defense, when combined with his base running, he becomes a really interesting, really valuable player. I think that's really important and an exciting development for the Brewers. So we're 11 games in. I don't want to get carried away. Um, but I do know if he had just not been able to hit at all, how we'd be talking about him right now after only 11 games, because we'd be into a second season of seeing it. So when he's showing us the opposite, I think you got to give him props for that too and be like, all right, you've got my attention and you're really delivering in a way that's, it's hard to ignore, but I still think we can make more noise about it. Just even when he's getting his hits, he's an RBI guy now. He's just like, yeah, give me a big spot. I find it really fun, and joyful, and it just quite exciting from a Brewers perspective. So yeah, Bryce Terang.
Bottom of the sixth, down 9-6 to the Reds. Yoel Payamps pitches a clean inning. That was nice to see. Old friend Justin Wilson still on for the Reds in the top of the seventh. William Contreras double followed by a Christian Yelich opposite field homer to left, 360 feet, makes it 9-8. One of those ballpark aided homers, but again, we'll take it. That's banked. That counts. Yeah, Brewers come all the way back from down 8-0 to make it 9-8. No quitting these guys. Brian Hudson, the slender man, comes on, all 6'8" of him, or however tall he is. That sounds close. Gets Stevenson to ground out to third to start the inning, and then Ellie De La Cruz hits a ball to center field. Sal Frelick dives when he shouldn't have. Should have just played that ball on a hop and held De La Cruz to a single. Instead, it results in an inside the park home run for De La Cruz. Hudson would then pitch around some other traffic to get out of that inning. Fernando Cruz comes on for the Reds in the eighth, just throwing absolutely nasty splitters. Gets 2 strikeouts in the inning to throw a clean inning there. Bryce Wilson pitches a 1-2-3 bottom of the eighth for the Brewers, and then Aledmus Diaz comes on for the Reds. Christian Yelich would draw a walk, take second on fielder's indifference. Willie Adames grounds out. Sal Frelick hit by a pitch, and then Rhys Hoskins, with a chance to do some damage and redeem himself, instead flies out to right to end the game. 10-8 Reds win, but the Brewers showed some fight. Really took a long time on that recap. Did not mean to.
A lot happened. A lot happened in that game, to be fair. I mean, it was certainly the game of the series, even though it's the one that we won't take much from it. I just on Sal can't sell out like that. Brewers win this
No.
game if he gets behind that ball. Every bit of momentum was that way, and they just looked well-oiled machine at that point. You got past some of the struggles. I think you win this game. It's an even bigger deal if after giving up innings like that, you come out and you win this one. Murph stood behind the decision and was really very supportive of it when asked after the game. I wonder, did Murph really mean that, or is he just not gonna, call out his players and press, which I'll be supportive of. But even from some of the details we've heard, can't remember what that was on, but someone on one of the broadcasts recently we heard of, oh yeah, he's shooting some guys out for mistakes like that one before already. So I'm sure that was someone will hear about that. I wonder if that was also the case with the Sal. You just cannot. You got to be aware of who the hitter is, and that's not more reason to go and be like, oh, it'd be great if I just catch this and get him out. It's like if you're not sure you're catching that, you just cannot sell out with that coming straight towards you. Like you have no angle, you have no chance if you miss it. You just cannot do it. So that was a really, really painful one. And I just I expect more from Sal. I like he's picked up his offense. That's good, but defensively
Yeah.
he's a stud, as we know. So I just I'd look really tough, and that's in that moment to make the judgment. And I guess probably part of what makes Sal such an exceptional defender is the fact that he's basically never seen a ball that he doesn't think he can catch. But that was one really where if he doesn't sell out, I think the Brewers come away from that game with a win. And the last thing he needed was to give Ellie De La Cruz even half a look and to get the Reds that fired up, to get the crowd that fired up. But look, bad luck too. We should mention on the Willie Adames throw that kicked up off the mound and pops up over Contreras' head
Yeah.
because they could have got him out at home plate. And that would have been a different kind of exciting that we could have got behind. But look, the Brewers certainly live to give Ellie De La Cruz interesting, big highlight reel moments.
Apparently so. This is just going to be our life for the next.
That's fine. As long as the Brewers keep winning series, I mean, he can have as many highlights as he wants within them.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Game 2, after the Brewers take the 10-8 loss, Joe Ross on the mound against Frankie Montas. Going into this start, maybe some trepidation about what you'd see from Ross. Couldn't make it out of the fourth in his first start. Had issues with walks. But you know what, Adam? Joe Ross was excellent in this game. Great performance and great to see. And the Brewers offense stayed hot. Joe Ross puts up 2 scoreless innings to start his outing, and then the Brewers start the scoring in the top of the third. After a Sal Frelick walk and a Bryce Terang double, Blake Perkins singles to score. Both of them makes it 2-0 after an Oliver Dunn strikeout and a Blake Perkins swipe of second base. William Contreras grounds out to get Perkins at third, and then Christian Yelich stays hot, singles to right to score Perkins. It's 3-0 Brewers at that point. Bottom of the third, Joe Ross strikes out the first 2 batters of the inning swinging, and then Will Benson lines out to center. He would allow a run in the bottom of the fourth after a Christian Encarnacion Strand single. A Jamer Candelario fielder's choice gets him to second, and then Jake Fraley singles to center to make it 3-1. But Joe Ross, after allowing a double to De La Cruz to put runners on second and third, is able to get Spencer Steer to strike out swinging and Nick Martini to strike out looking to get out of the jam. Big performance there by Ross to not allow that game to be tied or even give up a homer to Steer, who we know is capable of it. So nails there from Joe Ross. Brewers get some more runs in the fifth. Christian Yelich's double scores William Contreras and Blake Perkins, makes it 5-1. Another 1-2-3 inning in the bottom of the fifth for Ross. Brewers score again in the sixth on a Blake Perkins single, scoring Sal Frelick, who had singled earlier in the inning. That makes it 6-1. Bottom of the sixth for Joe Ross. Another 1-2-3 inning. This one a very quick inning. Brewers get more in the seventh to really put this game out of reach. After a William Contreras walk, Christian Yelich flies out to left. Willie Adames doubles to put runners on second and third. Jake Bauers, who has had a tough go of it at the plate thus far, does something right here, doubles to score Adames and Contreras. That makes it 8-1. And then a Sal Frelick single after a Rhys Hoskins walk scores Bauers to make it 9-1. 9-1 going into the bottom of the seventh, and Joe Ross back out there for the seventh. Ellie De La Cruz reaches base on a throwing error by Willie Adames. Jake Bauers unable to make the scoop there. Spencer Steele singles to center to put runners on the corners. Ross would then get a Nick Martini fly out. 9-1 Brewers when Ross exits the game. Elvis Peguero comes on, allows a Stevenson double to left to score De La Cruz and Steer. 9-3. He would get out of the inning. Joe Ross, I'll go back to him. So not able to get out of the seventh due to some bad luck and the throwing error. 6 and a third innings pitch, 5 hits, 3 runs, only 2 were earned. A walk, 7 strikeouts. The 7 strikeouts, a big part of that for me, and the 1 walk after the walk really derailed his outing in his start against the Twins. Just a great performance by a guy trying to get his career back on track. And if he keeps pitching even close to this, even going a 5 and dive situation, like he's going to keep earning starts because they need starts.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Not just Steele keep earning starts. I mean, the Brewers will keep winning games. It's like the more guys like this, it's like, I guess in the kind of the Joe Ross, Jacob Junis, like this kind of collection of guys this year, Hall is a different proposition due to, I guess, well, he may be a reliever, who knows, and also different point in his career, you're looking at him a different way. Well, I think with Ross and Junis, you're like, all right, can one or both of you guys become Colin Ray? Like, just in terms of consistency of giving us that, I think Ross is the guy based on what he's done. You're like, well, if everything panned out, he could be a little bit more than that for you too. But I think as a baseline, if you can get to that place where you just like, these are guys you trust, it's something the Brewers are very good at, just developing a knack of. Like, say by late last season when we're looking at, okay, series is coming up, who have we got? And we look at the pitchers, and it mightn't have been Corbin, it mightn't have been Woody, it mightn't have been Freddie, and you're like, yeah, you know what? These guys will go out there and they'll get their outs, and the Brewers will have a chance to win the game. And that's what the job is going to be for your Joe Rosses, your Jacob Junises, to get to that place. I think it's very encouraging that in his second start, he's getting to the 7th inning. The 7 Ks, that's a big deal. As you mentioned, the walks. I didn't think he pitched that poorly really against the Twins. It was just a little bit off and it wasn't there. This was really, really good. It now becomes, can you string starts together like this? Can you become a guy who, like, touches 6 innings pretty consistently? If that's the case, Joe Ross, we're gonna love you, my guy, and you're gonna be a big part of a very successful team this year. So yeah, I mean, really, really positive start.
This game was not without drama, though, Adam. The Reds get 2 more in the bottom of the 8th off of Elvis Peguero. And Yeli De La Cruz ground out, scores Christian Encarnacion Strand, and then Spencer Steer doubles to score Jake Fraley. Brian Hudson comes on to get out of that inning. Nothing doing for the Brewers in the top of the 9th. Bottom of the 9th, things would get a little hairy. A Luke Stevenson single. Or is that his name? Tyler Stevenson. Which Stevenson is this? There's too many Stevenson. There's a Robert.
It's Tyler. It's Tyler.
This is Tyler. Perfect. I just insult families so much by not being able to get their kids' first names right. Tyler Stevenson single to left off Uribe. Then a walk of Jonathan India puts runners on first and second with no outs. Wild pitch by Uribe puts runners at second and third with no outs. Then he strikes out Will Benson swinging, strikes out Christian Encarnacion Strand swinging, and then strikes out Jamer Candelario looking. And, Adam, excitement from Abner Uribe, just like getting himself into trouble and getting himself out of it. It's kind of Devin Williams in a way. Yeah, like just in a very different way. One thing we're going to have to look at in future episodes, I think it was Matthew Trueblood who tweeted that Abner seemed to abandon the 4-seam fastball this year, and he's going exclusively sinker slider. And I think I looked it up. He's only done one four-seam fastball this year, so interesting to see if that keeps happening. But if he's going to strike out the side, even if he gets himself into trouble, we are going to be entertained.
This is how I expect a lot of the Abner experience to be this year. Look, don't get me wrong, his stuff is so good that he will have days where he just goes up there and he tree up, tree down, all Ks. Like he will mow down guys at times. I think honestly, even more kind of informative to us and revealing. Like he's had some struggles lately, and then this game starts and you've got a couple of guys on, and you're like, okay, don't want to let this one get away from us. Don't want to blow a lead after the day before, kind of having to go and get one or go and fight to try and get in the game and seeing the Reds nearly blow a big lead. To come back from that, though, the kind of in-game adversity, and also, I guess, just a reflection of where he's been the past kind of week or so, and then string 3 strikeouts together. That's the good stuff. That's again, like, that's kind of the proof of what we're talking about here in terms of his quality. He is very, very Devin Williams, like setup man. Devin Williams. Devin got much better at this last year, and didn't give us as many stressful outings. But certainly when we were used to Devin in the 8, it was his special to get 2 guys on and then go to work. Essentially, look, if you can deliver, if you've got the nerves for it, we'll be all good. I think we'll enjoy the ride. There are going to be times where it goes wrong with Abner, but it's encouraging and true last season and into the start of this season. I've never had one indication that it's like it's going to get to him or that he doesn't have the nerve. Like it does seem like he will take the knocks that come his way, and then he can just go out the next time, or stand up there for the next pitch and throw absolute gas, dotted in the corner, and it's just it doesn't phase him. One pitch to the next, his memory is very, very short, and that kind of seems essential in this spot.
Brewers win 9-5. Moving on to the final game of the series that was not supposed to be the final game of the series. Wade Miley makes his return to the rotation. And Adam, I waxed poetically about the great man management and Pat Murphy maybe giving Oliver Dunn a day because he's tired early in the season and maybe needs a day. But also what Pat Murphy did with this lineup in this game is he knew Wade Miley's coming in. There's going to be a lot of contact. I want my guys who are going to go get the ball and catch the ball and throw the ball because we have the Ortiz, Adames, Terang, Bowers infield, Yelich DHing, Frelick, Perkins, Torrio across the outfield. And a lot of contact was made at him, but a lot of outs were made as well.
Bowers had a good line about that because he was asked what it was like to be out there with 3 shortstops. And he said he'd like to think it was 4 shortstops out there. Which, you know what, your glove is largely, we'll let you say that, Jake Bowers. You've been flashed some glove.
In the small snippets of interviews I've seen with him, he's not like the most boisterous guy in the world. But like I like him. He's
got a dry humor, I think.
Right. Yeah. I'm rooting for Jake Bowers. I want him to start hitting, and I like watching him play defense. Yeah. Miley making his return. On the other side, Hunter Green, trying to think of 2 more diametrically opposed pitching styles than Hunter Green and Wade Miley, and I'm not sure I could do it. Hunter Green was coming after the feet of left-handed batters in this game. I think Bowers wore one in the foot. I can't remember the other batter. It might have been Terang. But anyway, Brewers score early in this one with Jackson Chorio on base. Christian Yelich again, homer to right center, makes it 2-0. Brewers. I want to pause for a moment, even though
we should pause because we need to talk Yeli. I know you're conscious we're talking longer than we expected.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up. Through his first 45 plate appearances, 316 average, 409 OBP, 737 slug, 5 homers, a 200 WRC plus, 481 weighted on base average. He's almost up to one WAR on Fangraphs already. Through 10 games of the season. I know some of the homers in this series may have been ballpark aided, but they count. And damn, is it fun to watch Yelich play baseball like this?
Yellies were less ballpark aided than
The
some
one
of
to
his
left,
teammates.
the opposite field one was like Yelich show when he got back to the dugout, he was like, I didn't even know where it was. Like I think he
Yeah,
thought it was a
I did,
fly out.
but I don't know. Is the left side, is that small? I know the opposite field is, it's a pretty soft opposite field to be very kind about it in Cincinnati. But I wasn't sure if left field would also
I,
factor into that.
I I thought it was like I thought that one was shorter, but it might have been longer. Was that in game one? I can pull that up.
Yes, that was game one. I mean, the opposite field one, as opposed to, Willie getting one stolen, Bryce maybe landing in the first row.
You know,
Yeli got like 15 rows back, I think. I want to give Yeli a little bit of credit.
yeah, you might be right on that one. Um, so 360 to left field, 367 to right field on Yelich's homers. So slightly shorter on the left field opposite field
He
homers.
has hit some bombs this year already. Like I don't
Oh yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
not taking
if
away
these
from who
are
he is as a player. I'm
sure,
just
if
saying
these
this
are balls
ballpark is
that
ridiculous.
if they go over, a left fielder's head occasionally into a corner, or and you're getting doubles or triples at times, like that's all part of it too. We'll take that in bigger ballparks. Um,
What would make this a lot easier conversation?
uh, I do. I go on. I'll let you have it, but I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, as if that Twitter account
It's
still
gone.
existed. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to know. I'd love to know for not even just Brewers games. It was just a highlight of my day
Just a
anytime I would see
joyous
some.
thing. One of my
Yeah.
favorite things. Like, was it Wooded Dong? Right, that was it.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. But Homer questions aside and distances aside, like Yelich has been incredible. And getting close after a couple months or so, it'll be a year of Christian Yelich playing elite level baseball at the plate. And obviously, he had a good season with the glove last year as well, as far as metrics go. Um, you and I getting to experience a full season of Yelich performing at this level is something that I really want to manifest because it's what I imagine folks felt like in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I mean it is the best start to a season he's had since 2019. I'm gonna say it's the best start to a season other than 2019 in his career then as well. I have found okay, I've got some data for us on these home runs, Andrew. The 1-2 opposite field, home run in only 4 of 30 parks. So okay,
Who is doing this work now?
uh, at home run report, would it dong, in one of the last tweets from Would It Dong refers to this. It's all Elon Musk's fault that Would It Dong is gone now because, the automated stuff, it treats it like a bot, Famously no bots on Elon Musk's Twitter, so thank you
Home
for
runs
removing.
in bio.
So a home run report does not, tell us when doubles or singles might have been home runs, but it will tell you what a home run was. I'm scrolling. I'm trying to find the left field one. The left field one. My feeling on that one was it was the other way around. Do you want to guess how many parks for the one to left field?
Uh, is it 5?
18. So out to left, it's not that short in Cincinnati. That's my thought. But the opposite field, sure. Even when it looks like it's quite a bit further back, yeah, it's only 5 parks. So look,
Wait. Which one went further? His opposite field homer for him would be the one that went to left field. Full side homer would be the one to right field.
sorry, correct. I'm not thinking of left-handedness. The one to left field, 18 of 30
Wow, but
ballparks.
it flew shorter than the one to right, so it must be something weird with the.
Well, like left field is always an easy target. Not for a lefty in the same way. But look, the point is, we've seen him hit some absolute tanks. One of the ones he in AmFam was 430, 440 feet, right? So it's been a mix, and regardless, I mean, I will take all the shortest home runs that Yeli wants to give us if he's like homering in close to 50% of the games he's playing. That is very, very exciting. I want to dream that this keeps going like this, Andrew, because as you said, we didn't get to experience the previous version. Well, I mean, you did, you saw it from afar.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of in a spot where this is happening. You're like, my God, imagine how good this team will be if he is this guy, because that's how they're 8-3. Like, it hasn't been close games or it's been separating, but it makes a big, big difference. It makes a big, big difference, I think, to how the team feels, to the confidence overall. I think if he keeps that going, you got a roster like you've got there, like these aren't any angels, right? Sorry, Mike Trout. I think if you've got a guy who's gonna hit homers at a pretty meaningful rate, the Brewers are just gonna stack up wins at a level that I think will exceed even what our optimism was going into the season.
Him hitting like this also just creates like the most satisfying top three of a lineup that we've been dreaming of.
For
Like when
sure.
he, there was a time where we were thinking, oh, well, what he is now is an on base guy, batting at the top of the order. And, we'll take that. If you find some level of consistency doing that, you got to be happy with it. Now you can have Chorio or Frelick in their speed and on base skills at the top. You got Bill hitting second and Yelich hitting third as a run producer. Like that's just exciting stuff.
Well, let's get Willie working in the cleanup spot, and then you've really got something cooking. But shout out to Murph too. I mean, he obviously saw it from work behind the scenes from spring training. He was like, "Yeah, Yeli's hitting third." Because he could easily have been like, "Yeah, lead off Yeli, that worked pretty well. Let's kind of go with that." No, I guess he saw what was coming, and it's been a joy to watch.
After the Yelich homer in the first makes it 2-0. In the second, Jackson Chorio singles to left. Jake Bauers scores on an error there. Chorio to second. Um, Bryce Serang ends up making it to third on a throwing error by Spencer Steer. That makes it 3-0. And the second, still William Contreras' single to right scores Terang, and Chorio makes it 5-0. And then in the top of the fourth, Chorio sac fly scores Blake Perkins to make it 6-0. Wade Miley, 4 innings, 1 hit, just 1 run, which would come in the bottom of the fourth. His last inning of work, a Stuart Fairchild single to right. Christian Encarnacion Strand scores. Jamer Candelario gets thrown out at third on. Chorio hits the cutoff man, Jake Bauers, and Bauers makes a smart throw, accurate throw to third to cut down a runner and end that inning. Yeah, kind of what you draw up from Wade in this situation where he's working his way back from injury, and you want to kind of play it close to the vest, play it carefully. Probably could have gave you another inning, but 52 pitches get you out of there with a big lead, 6-1 lead. You'll take it, and I think positive stuff from Wade. Will be great to see how he recovers and ramps up before his next start, but satisfied with what he put in.
100%. Just great seeing him back. And the fact that he picks up, but just like Wade Miley, what more do we need to say? We are gigantic Wade Miley fans here. The man is a kitten. Just go out there and take care of business.
Can I talk about something that I think angered Wade Miley in this inning and in this game? And I think we've got a new villain afoot, Adam. In the bottom of the fourth, Wade was cruising, got the Jonathan India line out to center. Spencer Steer fly out to center. Walks Christian Encarnacion Strand. Then Jamer Candelario leans into the strike zone, kind of gets hit on the bottom of the hand knob of the bat area. Wade was unhappy about that. You and I talked about a play privately where Pete Alonso was forced to stay in the box for not even leaning in, but not trying to make an attempt to get out of the way. Candelario, to me, clearly leaning into the zone. Obviously, the strike zone with these various umpires, that they have a mind of their own. I'm upset with Wade. I think it's
this is too subjective,
baseball.
though, right? This is the thing. Honestly, like this. Maybe there's an element of ego for umps too, and my strike zone is gonna be perfect here. A factor has to be, the posture of the hitter, right? And that was the thing
Yeah.
with the Pete Alonso example that you and I talked about privately. I'm like, Pete Alonso was not leaning in. It's like, if you're hitting a guy who is not getting in the way of the ball, like, then that's fair. That's hit by pitch. Like, go take first base. I don't understand how we can have anything otherwise. And yeah, then I think if someone is leaning in, well, then that's pretty obvious. Look, there will be some exceptions where guys may find that tougher and would possibly get penalized more with their stance, but that's the thing I would put greatest kind of value on in trying to assess that is like, okay, well, what is the stance of the batter? What is their position, and does it change? Like, if you're moving too far into it and you're getting hit, I think that's a different story too. I'm just standing out here and you've dinged me with that one. It's like, that's a hit by pitch. So I think that might be something that we see ourselves on the right and the wrong end of multiple times across the season, because this just could be a thing to monitor in baseball.
Well, Adam, I've I advocated all last summer for trading for Jamer Candelario.
You did.
He ended up a Cub. Now he's a Red. Uh, I just, I want a reason to hate the Reds. And so, you know what? Just, it's not good behavior. I don't care about it, but it's not good behavior, Adam. Anyway, thankfully, due to Jake Bauer's heads up play as the cutoff man, no damage was done further in that inning. Relieving Wade Miley was Bryce Wilson. First batter he faced was Elly De La Cruz, who would hit a homer to left center to make it 6-2. Other than that, Bryce would get out of the rest of the game unscathed. So 4 innings and just the 1 run allowed in the total series for Bryce Wilson, which was nice to see him limit the damage there because he had a really tough start to the season. Hobie Milner would come on and provide a scoreless inning, as would JB Bukowskis. The Brewers would get 1 more run in the 6th on a Blake Perkins home run to right center field. That made it 7-2. Brewers win this one 7-2. Hunter Green touched up for 6 earned runs, had 9 strikeouts, allowed 2 homers, 6 hits, just 1 walk, and then the hit batsman that I mentioned. I said best series as a Brewer for Blake Perkins. Played good defense and center. Seemed like he was always positioned perfectly. 4 for 7, 3 singles, a homer, 4 runs, 4 RBI, and a walk. So nice series out of Perkins.
I've got a Perkins question.
Yep.
How do you feel about the hair?
I approve.
I didn't know he had it in him. I didn't know the level of, by choice that we were dealing with last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's what I will say, the hair makes him much less, creative player. He's got more personality. Maybe it's why he's thriving right now.
Yeah, it's much less. I have a fully up to date LinkedIn profile, I would say.
There's a lot of hair there too. Like, I mean,
yeah,
he does a good job of tucking it away, but you're like, okay, there's like some curls and stuff. It's like he's got a lot going on.
You and I have personally, like for ourselves, very different hair philosophies. I'm kind of just like trying different things throughout the year. Like I might have the cut, and like right now I've got like I'm kind of like growing it out. I've got a mangy beard, and I'm just like going in full dirtbag mode. So I just like to see like all different types of myself that I can be in terms of my facial
my hair
hair.
Hasn't changed in like 20 years.
Right, exactly. As long as I've known you across this screen and in
it's
person,
a lot. It's a lot.
It's
longer,
been one.
Honestly, it's a lot longer. The only change is that it's now like 30% and climbing gray. But other than that, it's the same. And I often think about it, and then I'm like, nah, I've got enough going on without having to think about this. I have to do something different. I mean, you've got a great look going at the moment. They would not allow Andrew play for the New York Yankees right now.
No, I look like a non-roster invitee relief pitcher that they're going to teach me a cutter, and that's going to help me rejuvenate my career. But yeah, Neil Schuster from No Laying Up was the one that espoused this philosophy on one of their goals podcasts, and so I've taken that to heart, and that's how I live. New converted Brewers fan, DJ Pahowski, if you're listening, come on the pod, and we can talk about the Brewers.
It's definitely not listening, but we'll try and get DJ.
That takes us to the Master Brewer leaderboard. We are going to hand out some beers for this series. 11 games played. For this series, Christian Yelich gets 2. Obviously, we talked about his incredible start to the season and his great series against the Reds. Joe Ross gets 2. For any Eurostep listeners, we kind of talked about beers being relative to expectations like they do with stocks early in the season. And I think with Ross having that tough first outing, not being able to make it out of the 4th, pitching into the 7th, definitely earned him a second beer. Blake Perkins gets a beer. Sal Frelick gets a beer. William Contreras gets a beer. Jackson Chorio, Bryce Terang, Joey Ortiz, Abner Uribe, Yoel Payants, Bryce Wilson, and Hobie Milner. Leaderboard through 11 games. No surprise here. Christian Yelich leads with 5. William Contreras, Jackson Chorio, Bryce Terang with 4. Elvis Figueroa, Joey Ortiz, and Abner Uribe with 3. Reese Hoskins, Willie Thomas, Oliver Dunn, Colin Ray, Brian Hudson, Joe Ross, Yoel Payants with 2. Freddie Peralta, Trevor McGill, Jake Bowers, Blake Perkins, Sal Frelick, Hobie Milner, Bryce Wilson with 1. You know what, Adam? You know what would be great? Freddie Peralta grabs himself 2 beers with 7 shutty against the Baltimore Orioles. Any thoughts before we move to the look ahead, Adam?
Let's look ahead.
As we mentioned, the Milwaukee Brewers will head to Baltimore to take on the Baltimore Orioles, one of the teams that's expected to be one of the best teams in baseball over the course of the full season. I see no reason why that won't be the case. They still got another game to play tonight against the Red Sox in Boston. So we'll see what their record is after that. 6:05 Central start Friday, April 12th in Baltimore. This is an Apple TV game, so everybody do your preparation for whatever you need to do to make sure you can watch that now. Free trials, whatever it may be. You don't want to miss this one, as Jackson Holliday is going to be making his home debut for the Orioles. It's a Jackson Fest. I mean, we've got Jackson Merrill in San Diego. There's a prospect named Jackson Jobe, who I think is in the Rangers organization, but don't quote me on that. No, it might be the Giants. I don't know. I don't know where he is. Fact check that.
The Royals have some Jackson. I think I've seen some lists of these going around. I'm pretty sure there's a Royals prospect.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong too. We're gonna get fact checked all rounds. You know, this is what the Discord is for. They're gonna fact check us.
I've got too many tabs open. I just called Tyler Wells Stuart Wells. Freddie Peralta will be going up against Tyler Wells. If you saw these tabs, people, you would have so much anxiety. Saturday, April 13th, 3:05 Central start. DL Hall on the mound against his former team, against Dean Kramer. Really looking forward to seeing what DL Hall does in that environment. Obviously, third start for DL Hall. We will be interested to see what the velocity on the fastball looks like and just what the pitch modeling data looks like in general on his arsenal as he ramps up into a starter's workload and sees if he can do this. And playing against his former team in that ballpark where he was pitching playoff games at relief last year, he calls himself a competitor. I see it in his eyes. He's fiery. I imagine he's fired.
Give us them.
I imagine he's fired up for this game. Rounding out the series, Sunday, April 14th, 12:35 Central start. Colin Ray against Corbin Burns. This series has all the narratives, Adam. Corbin Burns has been great for the Orioles to start the season, but so is Joey Ortiz. We'll see what DL Hall does in start number 3. We'll see what compensation draft pick does in later in the season. But anyway, a fun one. A fun series coming into 8-3, and like, to be the best, you got to beat the best. So let's see what they got against the Orioles.
I'm also just rooting for Colin Ray to eat Corbin Burns' lunch. I think that'll be incredibly funny. And it's not impossible, so we'll see. Maybe again, this Brewers offense is looking good. Maybe they could be the ones to really get to Corbin Burns. I'm excited for it. I will not see, the Jackson Bowl on Friday. Thank you, Apple TV Plus, and that ludicrous deal. Unless something has changed this year, and international MLB TV viewers can now view that through that. Because otherwise, I've got an Apple TV Plus subscription, got an MLB TV subscription, and neither will show me that game live. So, times. But that's not really all that important. I'll see it eventually. We'll talk about it. You'll hear about it on the next episode of the pod. To make sure you don't miss that or any episode, subscribe where we get your podcasts. That's Cruising for a Brewsing. You should also check out the rest of the GSPN podcasts. We've got the main feed, the Eurostep Podcast Network, home to all things Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks are sure going through a lot of stuff right now. They have won back-to-back games, including a win over the Celtics. They've also lost Giannis for at least a small period of time, a shorter period than certainly, would have been completely disastrous. But right now, can they do it out for any other time of the playoffs? Look, we're gonna find out really, really soon. And between the Eurostep, the time with Sharon Caddy and Win at 6, myself and Jordan Tresky will have you covered for all things Bucks. For Green Bay Packers talk, you got Talk to Tundra with Neil Mack and Jordan Tresky, and for movies and pop culture, make time for this with me and Andrew. Until the next time, thanks again to all of you for listening. Thank you, Andrew.
Sorry to all the families I've wronged. Thanks, Adam.